There are times when I wonder why I'm doing these videos, and today's lesson is going to be one of those times. I wanted this to be a practical, but unfortunately I'm going to make it a theory purely because this one took me a long time to put together. There's a lot of stuff that I repeat that we've covered in other videos, and I also needed Andrew's help to sort some of this out. So I'm afraid that I've already done it in the clinic application, and we'll just talk it through during this video right after these words. Hi, you're back with Martin and another video in which we are looking at getting started with OpenInsight 10. So we have previously created a lookup window. So if we click on the patient number here, then we can get a list of records in our database, and we can pick one and populate the form with that data. We then extended that with the index lookup. Now with the index lookup we could either do a keyword or a listing. Well, if we choose listing, we actually get the same functionality that we did from patient number, so we could effectively remove that now and just have the straightforward index lookup off this button. But the other thing on the index lookup, we can look up by keyword, and keyword, if we were to put in surname of duck and return, then we get a couple of options, and we can pick Daisy, return that data, and it updates our record displayed on screen. Now the only thing, this is great functionality, it looks great, but the only thing for me is that this window is okay, but when I go to the lookup window, this isn't necessarily in keeping with my application. For instance, I've got an upper and lowercase ID. Okay, I can probably change that within the dictionary somewhere, but I've lost my row shading and a few other bits and pieces. So what I've done is I've created another index lookup 2, and this one launches a window of our own making, and in here now I can go into surname, pick duck, and when I click search, that's now going to run our standard pop-up that we created. So this is our lookup patients one, and again I can click an option, click OK, and then that reads in the data. So how did we go about doing that? There's a number of things that we needed to change before we can actually add the button to the screen. The first was the validation on town. So open up the MP patients table, click on the town column, and just make sure that your validation is set to the user defined conversion program that we entered earlier for towns, and just make sure conversion is set the same way. When we've done that, we can come out of there. We also need to edit the pop-up patient number pop-up, and in here I've just added postcode, and I've made sure that for town, again, we've got our format options in here, so that the conversion under the format column. Once you've done that, you can save and close that. You then need to create the initial lookup window, which is very simple. I created this as a non-data bound form. I added in the menu manually using the menu builder. So very simply I added file and close, help and help, in the same way that we did previously. I then got a simple panel of which I've put the index search patient wording on and just made it bold. And then over the top of that I've added a label, so that would be a static text control with some text, an image, standard image that's just been dropped on to there, so images, and if you haven't got that image file, just create it. I then dropped on some combo boxes with no data binding whatsoever, so in this instance I've dropped on 4. and those will be the columns that we have got indexed in our database. So if we go back to the patients and we list the index, you'll see that we've got forenames, so that's indexed on a B tree. We've got surname, which is also indexed on a B tree, town, and postcode. Okay, so just come out of there. Now on the create event for the window, we have got some code. If I just move this over. Now, not being a coder, it's difficult for me to talk through all of this, but we declare a function which is collect.ixvals, and we insert logical. We then set up some variables, and the file name is mpatients, so that's the name of our data table that we're going to be working against. Our index values, so forename, surname, town, and postcode, and then for z equals 1 to 4, so the number of indexes that we've got. So if you wanted to index or give your users the option to choose a few more indexed items, you could expand that list and just expand the loop here. X equals x plus 1 and y equals y plus 1. So all that's going to do is it's just going to increment the x and y values, and we use that for the combos, because on the form I've simply called it CBO1, CBO2, CBO3 and CBO4, and that's because if I want to have a number of lookups, then I might actually want to change or use this as a template and then change the labels and the text up here on the fly. So that would enable you to do that in here. Then we go through this case statement where we find out the field names and what's been clicked, and then we just run through there, and then we end case. Next Z just takes you through 1, 2, 3, 4 times and then return 0. So I'll let you pause the video if you want to just copy that code in. And then on the button, the search button, well, actually for the cancel button, all I've done, I've left that as a quick event, which is to simply close the window, because this is going to be a window that will launch over the MDI frame. So it isn't an MDI window, it's just like a dialog window that will display. So for the search button, again, we've got a script. If I just move this over, a little bit smaller this time, so we declare some functions and a subroutine for the edit dialog. Insert control property equates. We then get the values that the users entered into the combo boxes and return that data. So again, I'll just leave you to have a look through here and to copy that text in. Now, if you're going to have more or less combo boxes, obviously you're going to need to extend or remove some of these items, and you'll see that we've got combo 1, 2, 3 and 4, and the props correlate, so we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. So if you're going to add more combo boxes, you're going to need more @rm def props or def prop $, and if you're going to remove one, then you're going to need to remove one from here as well. So just make sure that you've got the same number of controls and props. Okay, so if we come out of there, the window is fairly standard really. I didn't do too much on there. I've given it a different color for no real reason, it's just a different color. I'm centering it on parent so that it displays in a reasonably decent place, and I've sized it accordingly. I could put a translucency on there so that the window behind shows through a little bit. So if I do translucency of 25, and we could do a slide down to the right and a slide up to the left. I think this will work this time because it's running as a normal window, not an MDI child. I haven't got an image on there on that particular window, and the rest I think is all fairly standard. The frame size is dialogue. The help button, I didn't want one showing, so set that to false. The icon is just an index icon. Again, if you haven't got that icon, you'll need to create one. The maximize button and minimize button, again, we don't want them to be minimizing and maximizing this window, so I'll just set those to false. Otherwise, I think we're pretty good. Okay, so we will save and close out of there. So we then need to drop on a new button onto our patient form, and we need to add a click event, which again is a script. And again, this is a script. I'm not going to spend too much time going through here, but we set some declarations. Then we open the index lookup collector window. So this is the collector window that we've created, MP index lookup patients. We then set some variables. Again, the table is our data table that we're working against, MP patients. And then we open the dictionary to @dict. Otherwise, we're going to throw an error message. So the set underscore FS error, that will produce a system FS error message if something has gone wrong there. We'll then loop through the combo boxes. Now, I did have 6 at one point, but I've now only got 4. So we'll loop through the 4 combo box values returned and set the search values. I swapped the val count out and just fix that. So again, I'm going to change that to 4. We then have a case statement that goes through to get data. And then we just loop through that for each of the combo boxes. And then we create and run the search, return the data into the main grid. Now, it's not a main grid. You can see I've copied code from elsewhere. So this will be into the just into the form. So if data 1, then if search, blah 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 blah, and it just goes through and checks everything. Again, I'm copying code elsewhere, so for me it just works. Hopefully your programmers, you'll understand what this code is doing. We then run a B-tree extract at the end to extract the data, and we get our keys. And if the key count is positive, then we convert the VMs to FMs in the key list. We make the list, and then we return that to the MP pop-up patient number. So that's the pop-up that we created, so return that data to there. And then people can make the selection and then pass that back into the EDL patient number in our window. So that's our ID edit line. And then we'll do a read. So we read the record to display that on the screen. So if I just come up to the top here, I'll let you pause the video to add that code. And then if I just come down, that's the case statement part. Again, just pause the video. And then if I come all the way down the bottom here, and then just at the end we've got to return 0. Okay, so we'll do a save and close. We will then do a save and close on our form. And in this instance, I'm going to do a Control and L to launch the application. We'll bring in the patients window. We do an index lookup. Then we get the Windows slide. Now, I put the transparency on, and the transparency is a little bit too much. So we'll just come out of here. We will relaunch our index lookup patients form. Make sure that we're on the form. We'll find the translucency and set that to maybe 15. And we'll do a save and close. Control L. Patients, index lookup. And that's a little bit better. We can still see the the window underneath. Again, you might not want to do that. It's just a little bit of a feature that I thought I would throw into Open Insight, into the tutorial. And if we click on surname and duck and search, and again everything's all works quite nicely. In actual fact, it probably makes sense not to have this transparent or any of the translucency set on it, because if you click on duck and then search, then the pop-up hasn't got any translucency on it. So it would probably make sense to keep them consistent, and I'll make that change. Anyway, that's that video. I'm not sure what I've got planned for the next one, but watch out for it coming very soon. In the meantime, thank you for continuing to watch these videos. Please like and subscribe, and leave me a comment if you're finding these useful. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye bye.